Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker. I'm not Spreaker. Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the Fansided Network. The Dolphins have won 3 games in a row after yesterday's 24-17 win over the New York Jets. Paul did his job, brought back a winner, and Axel, if you're listening, you did good, buddy. Brought back a win for the Dolphins here. But Paul, throw it to you first here. You've gone down several times to the MetLife Takeover. Looks like you had a blast down there. Tell us how your experience was.
Yeah, it's funny. While I was there, I actually sat and did the math, and I think I've actually gone to 6 or 7 of these things now, which is crazy how much that's flown by. Because, Jesus, it's been 8 years now I've known you, since Web Weekend 10, I think it is.
Yeah, it was the Jonathan Martin season. So,
oof, yeah. Oof, oof. But no, this was such an absolute blast. Dolphins NYC continues to put on an absolutely killer setup. They raised, I think Saturday alone they raised over $2,000 for charity, which is amazing between the raffles and everything else. Huge thanks to OJ and Travis Wingfield and Seth Levitt and Joanna from Dolphins Today for coming out to the pre-party the night before, as well as the tailgate on Sunday. It was pretty cool to sit and talk to Seth, and it was funny because when I talked to Seth, we had him on the show ages ago when he was running the Jason Taylor Foundation, and his wife was right there, and he's introducing me to his wife, and his wife he's like, yeah, when we first started the fish tank, I hopped on with those guys. I'm like, Seth, we go back further than that. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, it was before the fish tank. It was back in the Jason Taylor Foundation days. And he's like, oh my God, we're getting old. And, but it's, I absolutely love the way everybody was with Axel too. Like, I mean, Seth, or Michelle and Igor completely spoiled him with Dolphins NYC stuff. I wound up getting him a hat as well. Steven Daniels from Miami Sports Music. It was pretty cool. He grabbed Axe and threw him on the air when they were doing a live broadcast. And actually, it was pretty cool because he was on with Richmond Webb, and I hopped on and was talking to Webb a little bit. And next thing you know, I wind up handing the headphones to Axel, and he gets to talk to Richmond Webb from the bar. And everybody was so cool with the kid. I mean, got to meet Dougley Durong, who we've done some collaborations with on some of the panels and things like that. Solo was there, got to say a big hello to him. Had some fun sitting with Oscar from Dolphins Talk, and so many listeners came up. I know, God, I think I spent the most time talking to one of our listeners, Manny, and his son, and it was pretty cool getting to see some of the people that are in the chat here and everything else. I can't say enough good about it. It's the money they raised for charity, getting those chants going up top was really cool. You can probably see a few videos of that Michelle and Igor took on their Twitter account. With I do tend to pop up including the "This is our house" chant at the end, which it really feels like it is by the end of those games up there, because Miami's done really well at these.
Right, I heard in the fourth quarter, I heard "Let's go Dolphins" chant. I'm not sure if I heard your voice specifically, but man, that's always cool to see. That's always cool to see, and I really enjoy it. They do a great job. Great job again, Dolphins NYC. One of these years, I'll come up there.
A lot of people were asking for you, just so you know.
Well, man, I got a lot of Facebook friend requests afterwards. So, yeah, I really hope one year I can make it. I can make it up there. I'm sure it'll be a blast. So, Paul, looking at the game here, first drive of the game, the Dolphins drive 83 yards right down the field. It seems to be a common theme. And then offensively after that, they sputter out the next 4 or 5 drives, and it seems like they're starting to lose some momentum. But this game was 7-7. Late in the first half, With 9 minutes left in the third quarter, Tua steps up, throws a 65-yard beautiful touchdown to Mac Hollins. Jets respond a couple of drives later with a 62-yard touchdown of their own to rookie Elijah Moore against that cover two, beating Byron Jones on the play. The Dolphins drive down the field, responding right back, going up 21-14. A great throw and a great catch by Myles Gaskin at the goal line. Helped out by a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty too by John Franklin Myers. The Dolphins were able to tack on another field goal, and that was pretty much it. So I always felt pretty good that the Dolphins were going to come away with a win before the game, during the game, even after the Jets tied it up, and they did. The Dolphins, this was a game they had to win, and they did.
It was, and the Dolphins missed a few opportunities for various reasons to blow the game open at times. On the one drive, I think it was the one where Sanders chunked the ball off the upright. There was a play, I want to say from like the 5 or 6 yard line, where I remember just looking at the Dolphins' offensive alignment, looking at the Jets' defensive alignment. I saw Smythe lined up tight, and I said, God, if that guy runs a flag route, he is going to be wide open. And I started hitting the guy next to him, like, he's running it, he's open. And Tua didn't see him, basically threw the ball on an incompletion, and Miami wasn't able to widen the lead there. Another thing that I saw a lot was those 3 offensive pass interference penalties, which the one on Gesicki was horrific, absolutely horrific. And
that was the one where Albert Wilson caught like a 30-yard pass, right? And it was there were 2 that were bad. I remember that.
There was that one, but there was also the one where Gesicki caught the ball, and they called a pass interference on him when really the Jets defender, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, had a hold of his arm, and he just shook the arm off. He didn't even make contact with the defender. Caught the ball, should have had a first down off of it, and they brought it back again. And it was really goofy and weird. So that was another thing that I thought killed a couple of drives were the OPIs. And then another one that was Miami shooting themselves in the foot for me was that inside handoff that they abused that wasn't working.
Yeah, it worked for Myles Gaskin.
For a minute, but then
for 1 or 2 drives. I mean, Myles Gaskin, it seemed like he had like 60 yards rushing after the first few drives, and then finished with 23 carries for 89 yards. Gaskin did. It seemed like, that absolutely wasn't working. And
it put him in a bad field position a lot, or throughout the game. Once it stopped working, and they kept going back to it on the early downs and putting themselves behind the 8 ball.
Right. Yeah, and we've seen it a lot this year offensively. And hey, look, the Dolphins won the game. That's good. We're happy. It has to be pointed out too that after the first drive for the Dolphins, where they go 83 yards and score a touchdown, their next few drives, interception, 3 and out, 20 yards and then a punt, 3 and out, missed field goal, and that's their first half. And it seems like that first drive when they drive down the field, okay, we've got something going, and then they're driving on the second drive all the way down the field, and then something happens. But actually on that second drive, let's get this out of the way first. Tua's interception was bad. It was really bad. But hey,
he had a great day though.
He did overall. If you take that interception out of it, he's 27 for 32 for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that doesn't even count the 2 or 3 offensive pass interference calls, which also would have tacked on another about 50 or 60 yards to that.
Yeah, no, there were so many things in this game with him. I really liked what I saw from Tua in this game completely. So he definitely had command of the offense. I'm glad I think you brought up the Wildcat. You may not have. I may have read it in chat, and I apologize. After the Dolphins don't seem to get away from things that are working or aren't working anymore fast enough when they need to, and they get away from things that are working still a little too quickly at times. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing.
Yeah, they went Wildcat on that 1 yard Jalen Waddle touchdown run, which I thought was a pretty creative call. And, you know, I don't have a huge problem with the Wildcat in that situation where you need 1 yard. I hate it when you need 6 yards and then you're taking Tua off the field or you're splitting them out wide. I mean, if the guy's on fire and he's completing 80% of his passes, leave the guy in. It keeps the offense a lot more unpredictable. I'm surprised at this point anybody in the NFL is able to get yardage on the Wildcat. I mean, what are the odds of Myles Gaskin throwing the ball? Not very high. More than likely, Albert Wilson will be the one doing that instead if somebody who's not a quarterback throws the football.
And it's funny you say that because there was one of the Wildcats that really didn't work. And I watched two guys go out like they were going for passes. I can't recall who off the top of my head. And I looked at my dad's friend Scott and I went, just throw the jump pass there. Run at the line, see it's not there. Throw the jump pass. It's there. And instead just ran into the pile up and died.
Right. I don't understand why the ball isn't thrown a little bit more in the, I mean, hey, just, yeah, like you said, if you need any Wildcat running back can throw the ball 10 feet, you know, or push it out with both hands. I mean, cried.
Axel can throw it that far. I've seen it.
I bet. That's but hey, good news overall with Tua. I mean, on the season now, Tua is completing 68% of his passes, 1,471 passing yards. Of course, he missed a lot of games. 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, as well as 3 rushing touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 91.4. So
that's horrible.
This next week against, you know, and it's not great either, but look, next week against Carolina is the one I'm really looking forward to, because if you think about it, Tua this year has faced, you know, he had that first drive against the Bills. He didn't really get to see much out of him in week 2. But then he played the Bills again and not a great game from Tua. I don't think a lot of it was his fault. And the Bills defense, other than this past weekend against the Colts, has been the best defense in the league all year. But then Tua has played overall good games against the Falcons, the Jaguars, and the Jets, who are terrible defenses. This week against the Panthers, this upcoming week, we get to see him against kind of an above average defense, I think it's fair to say. So I think this is going to be a little bit more of the measuring stick of where Tua is and how good of a quarterback he is.
It is. And, you know, if we were talking about any young quarterback that's still in their first 16, 17 games, being able to say he's got a 91 QBR at this point is a pretty good litmus test for, at the very worst, Tua is going to be okay. And if you can get the defense working like you have been overall down the stretch, and you can get the receivers working, and Tua didn't take a sack in this game, and he did a good job avoiding pressure at times. And the running game hasn't been spectacular. There's definitely some areas on the offensive side that need to get fixed that aren't Tua. So that being the case, if he can merely be okay or good, that's a step up from anything we've had in the past 20 years other than one season of Pennington.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
that's more than a step up.
Yeah, and look, Tua, I always go back to this, is that the guy I compare him most to is Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think he can be better than Garoppolo. And people may shake their head about Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll say again and again, you have to be damn good in the NFL to be Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. Mm-hmm. You've got to be even a top 15 to 20 quarterback in the NFL. You've got to be good. And this is a step in that direction. I mean, when you're completing almost 70% of your passes, that's a step in the right direction. What I've also noticed too is that the offensive line, maybe it's more reflective of how bad the Jets pass rush is, probably had their best pass protecting game of the season, aside from Jesse Davis. And we've seen over the last couple weeks now, we see a 35-yard and a 64-yard completion to Jalen Waddle and to Albert Wilson last week. This week, we see the 65-yard touchdown to Mac Hollins, where it was a phenomenal play. Jesse Davis got whooped off the snap. Tua stepped up through the teeth of the pocket, found Mac Hollins downfield, and bombed it and delivered a strike. I mean, those are the things that, and I keep going back to, I believe that if you get the offensive line around Tua and you get him with an NFL caliber starting running back, he can create spacing for himself, plant his feet, and deliver the ball accurately. And I think we've seen a lot of that here over the last two games.
We have, and I can't believe I didn't talk about this yet. And it was funny too, because after this conversation, I found out the guy listens to our show, and this was something that he didn't realize. It was me talking to him, because he listens to the podcast version mostly. It's I took a walk at halftime, was talking to another Jets fan, and this Dolphins fan comes up, starts talking to me about how Tua is obviously not the answer. And I went, I'm going to disagree with you. And he goes, we should have drafted Justin Herbert, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I totally respect your opinion, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Herbert would have done any better behind the offensive line the past 2 years. And that's not to say Tua or Herbert is the better quarterback down the stretch. But it is saying that I think Herbert would have also had some chuck and duck tendencies, given the pressure he would have had to face here that he hasn't truly had to face out in San Diego. Or L.A., Jesus. And the guy, oh, there we go with the excuses for Tua again, and excuses. And I said, look, let me stop you right there. Just because we have a different point of view doesn't make it being excuses. I'm not saying Tua's the guy. I'm not saying Tua's not the guy. But what I'm telling you is a lot of quarterbacks this side of Burrow would have faced a lot of issues behind this offensive line the last 2 years. And a different point of view doesn't mean it's an excuse.
A couple things there is, one, I think Herbert's better than Burrow right now. And yeah, look, I wanted Tua over Herbert. I'll say that, and I'll admit that freely. I do think when you take a look at my default position is that Justin Herbert would have been better anywhere as opposed to Tua, as far as with what we've seen right now. But just because that's the case does not mean that Tua cannot be successful. If you're going to constantly hold it against Tua that he's not Justin Herbert, then it's not really a fair evaluation. Herbert is a star right now. I mean, you see what he did against Pittsburgh. They put up 41 points on the board. He's firing the ball all over the field. He's a star now. And that part's unfortunate, but it doesn't mean Tua can't be good. And the Dolphins have to surround him with the right pieces. And the number one thing on that is the offensive line. Because even with a bad offensive line, Tua has been able to maneuver in the pocket and get himself to the point where he's only been sacked 8 times this year, starting a quarterback. So there's something to be said about that with his escapability. Tua has shown a lot. He just needs to take that next step up now.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to, but he could. And I can't believe we're 20 minutes into this show and we haven't talked about this yet, Kat. And I'm kind of disappointed in both of us. For the second week in a row, we had a fat guy catch the ball this week. But this one wasn't a penalty. It was
almost a fumble.
Fumble schmumble. He still caught the ball. Still got to run with it. We even got a fat guy spike later in the game, but Robert Hunt just keeps doing it on meaningless plays. Christian Wilkins got to do it on a big one where Javon Holland laid a hit where I didn't think Flacco was going to get up again. Oh, my God. Like, holy cow, did Javon Holland come in like a missile off the edge. And good on Christian Wilkins for catching that ball and taking off with it.
Well, the first time the Dolphins got to the 1 yard line, Christian Wilkins lined up at fullback. I was like, oh my gosh, if Christian Wilkins gets the handoff here, and he will one time,
He
like,
will.
oh, Paul's going to bring the house down.
I was screaming, "Give it to him! Give it to him!"
And I'm also disappointed too that Wilkins on that Brandon Jones forced fumble didn't get credit for an interception. It should be an interception. I don't know how it's not. He got smacked by Brandon Jones, and the ball came. You could say it was a throwing motion. Just give him the interception.
I was gonna say the ball flew forward in the air and got caught in the air. That's an interception. Give it to the man. Let's go. Challenge it.
That was, I would say, overall the play of the first half for the Dolphins, because Dolphins went up 7-0. The Jets scored to make it 7-7. And then they got the ball back in good field position, marched right down the field, got to the Dolphins' 10-yard line. Brandon Jones on the safety blitz, hits Joe Flacco, ball springs up in the air. Wilkins returns it back to the 30, and the Dolphins are able to get out of that hole with no points and not in terrible field position. So great. That really is, to me, the number one bright spot of this season for the Dolphins, is that safety tandem of Javon Holland, Brandon Jones. They complement each other very well. Jones, yeah, he's got coverage issues. I would argue he's probably never going to be fast enough to be great in coverage, but they use him down in the box so much at that linebacker spot, and they play so much of that cover zero. It hasn't affected him. And the more he's charging forward, the more effective he is.
Yeah, and I just want to get back to my fat guy thing, because one chant I tried to get started, and the one thing I was disappointed in with the MetLife Takeover is not enough people picked up the chant, was Miami had the ball and they were down in the red zone, and I'm not going to lie, Kat, I tried to start a Robert Hunt chant, and not enough people joined in. So I was very disappointed in that, because I wanted to see Robert Hunt get the ball.
That would have been pretty cool. I wouldn't have minded that as much, because at least it's not a penalty and he's trying to score, and it's somewhat entertaining. No, I think you got to be a few more touchdowns up for that.
For an offensive lineman to hear the fans chanting for him. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, and I think that is cool that he's kind of turning into a fan favorite because of that stupid play, but he is turning into a fan favorite, and he's getting some notoriety, and I think he is the Dolphins' best lineman. Going back to Tua real quick, though, too. My favorite throw of the game was not the 65-yard touchdown. It was that sideline tight area throw to Jalen Waddle on a 3rd and 7 in the second half that kept the drive going. Those are the big boy throws that Tua needs to make. And he did there. So yeah, I mean, if Paul, if we're going to keep going down position by position here, but if we're grading quarterback here, I mean, I'm tempted to put him in the A's, but that bad interception takes him down. I'm going to say takes him down to a B+ for me in this game. Part of the reason I can't quite put him at an A is because after that first drive, the Dolphins really sputtered out the rest of the first half, but pulled it together, made some big boy throws. Again, hid the offensive line's deficiencies throughout the game, especially Jesse Davis's. I'm going to go with a B+ for Tua.
Well, I'm gonna break away from the pack here, and I'm gonna act like a fat guy catching an illegal screen pass and just run with it. I'm gonna give Tua an A- here. There was a lot to like. Somebody just pointed out in chat that Tua is showing some command and cool in the fourth quarters here to keep Miami in the games, to keep the clock moving, and to really eat up time. And I love seeing that. And God, he completed over 80% of his passes. I can go with an A- for him here. It's not an A, it's not an A+, especially given the fact that he had that horrible interception, but it didn't truly cost Miami in this one.
No, it definitely didn't. There was another pass he threw when he got hit by John Franklin Myers for that late hit that was almost picked off by Bryce Hall. So really two turnover-worthy plays there. But, I mean, the good far outweighed the bad in this. And you can tell, I think when he's allowed when he's given time, I think his feet are special. And his body positioning and the way he can take velocity off the ball and put it on the ball. I think is those are his best attributes. So let's continue to hope that this continues here. Running back, Myles Gaskin definitely got his biggest workload of the year. Touched the ball 26 times. A very nice play on that Tua touchdown that put the Dolphins up 21-14, because Austin Jackson at the 1 yard line gets a false start penalty. It goes back to the 6 yard line. The Dolphins throw a couple incomplete passes, 3rd and 6. And CK Parrott just Chris Kaufman just posted this on his Twitter feed too and pointed this out. You watch that play right off the snap. Liam Eichenberg and Jesse Davis get lit up, especially Davis. He's under pressure. He knows he's going to get hit. He sees Gaskin, puts it in right at the right time so Gaskin can catch it, turn it upfield, and barely get into the end zone. Great play by both guys there. But running the ball after the first couple of drives, not a lot of room for Gaskin. And on the day, he only forced one missed tackle, according to PFF. So, and one other thing I want to point out at the running back position too, actually 2 things. Duke Johnson active over Savon Ahmed at this game, did get on the field. I want to see some more Duke Johnson in this game, as far as touches. And one of the more underrated plays of the game here was in the first drive where it was 3rd and 4. Patrick Laird catches and it's his only catch of the game, catches a pass. I think it was behind the line of scrimmage and makes 2 guys miss, barely gets the first down. The Dolphins don't get a touchdown on that drive if Patrick Laird doesn't make that play. And who knows how the game turns out from there.
You need to call him by his proper name, which is Patrick, I only catch first downs, Laird.
Is that true?
It's pretty close.
I think we can work on that nickname. But so I am hoping Garrett Dokes becomes active. The Dolphins have had him on their practice squad, and they protect him too. I want to see him called up to see maybe if we can get something more going between the tackles from a power perspective. So running back, I'm gonna go C+.
Again, I'm just a little step above you. I'm going to go with a B-. I think it was Duke Johnson's first run where he broke about 2 tackles and then still fell forward on the 3rd one that he couldn't quite break. And that inside run might work a little bit more often with Duke throughout the game than it was with Gaskin. Once they catch on to it with Gaskin, they're going to eat it alive. Good for him, still averaging almost 4 yards a carry. But Duke Johnson looked a lot better on that run, even when they knew it was coming. And that's a big one for me. But, yeah, I'm with you on Duke Johnson. You know I like Patrick Laird. For whatever reason, they've got a good rapport between him and Tua. And he doesn't catch a lot of balls, but what he does catch is I kidded around about that I only catch first downs thing. But it feels like it's true. It's kind of like Oronde Gadsden years ago, where Gadsden never really led the team in catches, but every catch felt like it was a first down. And that's a critical role for somebody on this team, especially if they're going to call goofy plays on first down that put your back against the wall.
What I like about Laird is he's a good route runner in the passing game. He understands the subtlety of what he needs to do. And if there's 5 yards to gain, he knows exactly how to position his body and what route to run so that he can get 6 yards, not 2 or 3. And Kelly here in the chat said she misses a buzzed cat after the games. Well, you're going to get that every time after a primetime game because I have a few drinks during the game, and I'm not. See, an hour after the game, I'm not out of my It doesn't matter if I have a drink or not. I'm not out of my state of mind yet. I'm still, the wheels are turning. I haven't had a chance to take a walk or just kind of decompress after the game. I'm still in my insanity mode there. So you're just gonna have to accept if it's a primetime game, I'm probably going to be sauced. So moving on.
So Kat, real quick, actually, I was just thinking about something too, and I forgot to mention it earlier. One thing I'd be down for with the Wildcat, and I saw it a lot yesterday when they ran it, Do you know who was open every single time on the Wildcat? We're talking wide open.
Who's that?
Tua.
God, please don't have him taking unnecessary hits as a receiver. But hey, if he's wide open, he wouldn't. So
I was going to say wide open, near the sideline, run till you can't, and then get out.
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah. I mean, you can probably do a few more creative things with Wildcat. I just wish they'd do it away with it altogether. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
You mean as opposed to catch and run straight?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Rob's in the chat said Gaskin's vision is terrible, which is unfortunate. He never hits the right hole. I agree. Like, even when there is a hole there, I don't know, like what happened with him there. Like, Myles Gaskin is one of 2 players in NCAA history to have 1,200 or more rushing yards in each of his 4 years. The other one was Ron Dane. And he looked like he had really good vision last year, or at least better vision last year. I just don't know what he's seeing this year. That's why I hope the Dolphins can get a little bit more Duke Johnson and Dokes in there. I love Gaskin in the passing game, but he's not getting it done as in between the tackles this year.
You know what? Somebody just made a good point in chat, and I'm going to just mention this real quick about the Wildcat. It is going to look a lot prettier when Bowden comes back and they put him in.
That's true. He'll be back next year, and I think the Dolphins did a good job there stashing him on their practice squad. Receiver and tight end, Paul. Jalen Waddle now on pace for 105 catches, 965 yards, which is a really odd stat line. But he also got his 4th touchdown of the year. I like that play because Waddle's able on those when he gets the ball on a handoff, he's able to make a lot of those angles disappear, and he was able to get around the edge. It was a nicely called play there. Mike Gesicki, after getting blanked last week, 5 catches for 50 yards, should have been more. Matt Collins, first catch in 2 games, but what a big one. 65-yarder down the field, and he also caught a big 7-yard pass too, where he went down and that gave the Dolphins a first down in the 4th quarter. Albert Wilson has actually looked like a player over the last couple of weeks. No, I don't want him back next year, but we're starting to see that rhythm with Tua that we heard in training camp.
Yeah, I really like Matt Collins. I think I was calling for it before the game that they needed to get him more involved at this point. I think he needs to be back. I know we keep running through different receivers that need to be back. Gesicki needs to get re-signed, and God, his 5 catches, it felt like every catch was a big one, even though he only ended up with 50 yards in this game. This was a good game where Tua spread the ball around a lot. I mean, you look down the list, you've got 6 guys, I think, with multiple catches, and then 8 receivers overall caught a pass in this one. So they spread the ball around the tight ends. I thought they got a little creative at times, which was pretty cool to see again. It's when Miami does get creative, the offense looks a hell of a lot better, and they've got the personnel to do so. The receivers, I liked what I saw in this one. I can go with a B for the receiving corps.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay right there with the B. Jalen Waddle continues to get separation. I love that play where he starts out on one side of the field. As long as they can block it up well enough, that's hard to cover when he runs all the way to the other side of the field. He almost broke one too, stepped out of bounds. Man, I was hoping that was going to be the play where he broke away. Offensive line, no sacks allowed. I'd say that has a little bit more to do with Tua than it does the offensive line, but Liam Eichenberg, I thought, had a really good game at left tackle, and he went up against former Dolphin Shaq Lawson. Austin Jackson, shockingly, had one of his better games. He did have the penalty. I'm not pleased with him overall. And he had that penalty on the 1-yard line. He always gets them at the worst times. Jesse Davis was bailed out at least 3 or 4 times by Tua. John Franklin Myers, who is not a world beater, got the better of him. One of the better performances for the offensive line, but I'm still not going to give him higher than a C+.
I'm going to give him. You know what though? They allowed decent yardage in the running game.
Talking offensive line now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Gaskin averaged almost 4 yards per carry. I know Duke only had 4 carries, but he had it for 4.5 yards. They didn't give up a sack. I want to go with a C, but I'm going to go with a B minus because statistically, they did okay, even though Jesse Davis looked like hot buttered ass yet again.
Yeah, Miles Gaskin, 23 carries, 89 yards. On the defensive side of the ball, not a great performance, but 17 points allowed. A lot of chunk plays by the Jets. I mean, the 62-yarder to Elijah Moore, that 39-yard run by Michael Carter, 29-yard catch by Ryan Griffin, the tight end, on a play action, and also another 25, 30-yard catch by Elijah Moore, too. Elijah Moore, a player that was my favorite player in this past draft. Very happy with Jalen Waddle still, but I can't believe he fell early in the second round. I mean, 6 catches, 141 yards. Great performance by him. But starting out with the defensive line, I didn't think they got a lot of really good pressure throughout the game. I was hoping to get a little more from Jalen Phillips and Emmanuel Ogbah. Ogbah had his usual batted down pass. Jalen Phillips had a big sack late in the game on third down. Good for him. But other than that, I don't think he had a very good game, even though that was a huge play. Defensive tackle, Zach Sealer, I'm just surprised only gets 19 snaps a game because when he's on the field, he plays extremely well. Christian Wilkins did fine. He had the fumble return there too. One thing that I saw here, looking at the snap count, Adam Butler has had the most snaps for a Dolphins defensive tackle in each of the last 3 games. More than Christian Wilkins, more than Raekwon Davis, more than Zach Sealer, and I'm starting to see why a little bit. He's legitimately disruptive at defensive tackle, even though he only has 1 sack. I think he's able to give quarterbacks something to think about where Wilkins, Sealer, Raekwon Davis, they're kind of come right at you type of players, push and shove your way to the quarterback type defensive tackles. But defensive line, I don't think they had a great game or a great day, but not terrible overall. I'm going to go with a B minus.
I'm going to go with a B for the defensive line. I'm calling it an interception. I don't care what the stat line says. It was an interception. And thank you, Kelly. You're freaking amazing. I do like that. That's more of an off-season thing for us. But I like some of the pressure. I like Butler. I think he does a better job than any of them in dropping in coverage, too, as well, from that defensive tackle position. And
Absolutely.
there's nothing to be said for that, especially if you're going to run this cover zero bit. But it's very interesting to see. I thought Christian Wilkins played well. I think they got to Joe Flacco a lot more often than the stat line shows. I think we only had 2 sacks in the game officially. But, yeah, I really like what this D-line does, and I can go with a B for these guys.
And it is a little different at defensive end with Ogbah and Phillips too, where they're expected to keep a lot more contained than we saw with Cameron Wake and Robert Quinn, where they had one job, that was to get to the quarterback. So the responsibilities are a little bit different. I would have still liked to have seen a little bit more heat from them against George Fant, against Morgan Moses. Linebacker, I'm starting to see Eric Rowe and Brandon Jones. So Javon Holland basically played every snap at safety. Brandon Jones and Eric Rowe had 37 snaps each. So they went 3 safety a lot, and that's a pretty common theme, and I like that too. But that means that you're basically playing with 2 linebackers, usually at most. So at linebacker, Jerome Baker was the one getting wiped out of that play on that Michael Carter 39-yard run. You're just going to get that from time to time with Baker. The more the Dolphins move him around and blitz him, the better he's going to be. If he sits back and waits to get blocked, it's not going to go well for Jerome Baker. Landon Roberts, saw him a few times down the field covering a little bit more than usual. Andrew Van Ginkel, a pretty quiet game. So, the linebacker position, I'm just going to go with the C+ here.
Yeah, Baker had a really nice A-gap blitz early in the game where he was about a half step away from Flacco and just lit his world on fire. But you're right. There could have been some better play from the linebackers today. And I think one of the things that complicated a bit for Miami on defense was I think they planned on playing more cover zero. But once it became clear that the officials were going to let rub routes and picks go on throughout the game, that's one of the weak spots in that cover zero, because if you effectively run a rub route or a pick, we saw it on Coleman early in the game. We saw it, I believe, on the Jets' first touchdown. You have to drop out of it because there's no help as far as that goes that can recover in time when they're able to effectively screen and pick those players.
Absolutely. Well said. At defensive back, I felt Joe Flacco played as well as he possibly could have played in this game. I don't think he looked bad in this contest. I really don't. And I think that had more to do with Flacco having a good game than the Dolphins defense playing poorly. I mean, obviously the big play was a 62-yarder to Elijah Moore against cover zero. Byron Jones was in a trail position against him, couldn't quite get to the ball. That was a big play there. Brandon Jones, the forced fumble, was really the play of the first half for the Dolphins defense. Xavier Howard dropped an interception, which is pretty rare to see, but overall a solid game from him. And Javon Holland, what more can you say with him at the free safety position? So can't give him a great grade because I was hoping to see a few less yards, so I'm not going to quite go up to the A range, but I'm just going to go ahead with a solid B for the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I can roll with you on that. It's Byron Jones got beat a little bit, but outside of Elijah Moore, who, quite frankly, I think just played well. It wasn't that Miami played bad in the secondary. I can go. I'll go with a B plus just to be a little different on that one.
Yeah. And I think there were 7 cornerbacks. I think Trill Williams was active in this game. I might be wrong on that, but that would have meant there were 7 cornerbacks. 7 cornerbacks active, and one of them was not Noah Igbenogany. Oh my gosh! That pick keeps getting worse. So special teams, what is going on with Jason Sanders here? Misses a chip shot field goal, has missed a field goal in 4 of his last 6 games. I thought Pilardi had one of his better days punting. Not much to report on the return game for the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle took a kick out of the end zone when he shouldn't have. Not much else to report. But with the missed field goal, I can't give him any higher than a C on special teams.
Yeah, that was ugly. It's almost worse when the field goal hits the upright that solidly than anything else. There was nothing special on punt returns. I hated that fair catch interference call. I need to rewatch it. From where we were, it didn't look like it should have been called there. But again, I'll defer to you on that one, Kat.
It looked legit to me, but from what I saw, he didn't specifically touch him, but he was very, very close. You got to give the guy some room. So, yeah, and look, going back to the cornerback, sometimes when you play that cover zero and you have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard one-on-one and the last line of defense, it's going to happen. That's the risk of running it. I still think it's worth it, and I know Paul does too. Paul, I'll throw it to you for your player of the game and your Coke Bus player of the game.
Player of the game. I should have given this more thought, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Brandon Jones as much as I thought about giving it to Tua, because of the fact that Brandon Jones had that game-turning hit that ultimately allowed what should have been a Christian Wilkins interception, got ruled as a fumble recovery, and that was a drive-killing play at a time when Miami needed one. So I'll give Brandon Jones the player of the game. Coke Bus player of the game, Jesse Davis. I'm going to have to get your name stitched into the seat on this one at this point. You are playing terrible football right now and should not be on the field anymore.
That's for darn sure. And I think this is going to be his last year as a Dolphin. I mean, just if anything, move the guy to left guard. I mean, he played one game there against the Raiders and actually did a decent job. And when he plays left guard, it's obviously always his best position. So my player of the game in chat, Ron said that Liam Eichenberg needs to move into guard. I agree with Ron overall, but Eichenberg played really well in this game. And so I'm giving him the star of the game because his ability to protect that left side, I think, made a major difference here for Tua Tagovailoa. Coke Bus player of the game. After Jesse Davis, it's kind of hard to come up with one. It's not to say that everyone was a star for the Dolphins, but there were no glaring weaknesses here. So, I'm going to give it to Byron Jones. He led up the 62-yard touchdown. Yeah, that's a tough assignment against a fast player. And also, too, there was a 3rd and 11 play where Byron Jones reached out, and it was clearly a pass interference that was not called. And I tend to think that one of those offensive pass interferences called later on against the Dolphins was kind of a makeup call. So it's kind of hard to pick one, but this game I'm going to go with Byron Jones as the Coke Bus player. Paul, anything else jump out to you here before we wrap up?
No, man, I'm excited. I'm glad that we didn't get Cam's first game back or second game back this coming week. I do want to say huge thank you to everybody that made this weekend special up at MetLife Takeover, especially for Axel. Great job, Michelle, Igor, Brian, Alex. You guys do such a phenomenal job out there. And, huge thank you to OJ McDuffie for seeing me with Axe and immediately, grabbing the kid and signing his jersey and taking pictures with the kid and all that stuff. It was great to meet some of you guys that listen to us, and we'll get Cat up there one of these years. I promise you guys that we will get Cat up here one of these years.
I will do my absolute best. I've been to New York once. It was for WrestleMania a couple of years ago. So, I like New York. I want to go back up there again, no doubt about it. And, the Dolphins do not play on the road again until after Christmas. Their next road game is Monday Night Football a few days after Christmas against the Saints. That's the one. That's where the Dolphins need to get to, if they can, they've got a tough game against Carolina at home. It's a tough game. I mean, every game the Dolphins play is going to be tough because, then they've got home game against the Giants, then a bye week, and then a home game against the Jets. These next two games, if you can get to 6 and 7 heading into that bye week, you got to think they're going to beat the Jets again at home the following week, and then things can get fun. Who knows what's going on in the AFC? The Bills just got killed by the Colts by 4 touchdowns at home. The Titans lost to the Texans, where Ryan Tannehill threw 4 interceptions. You could have made the case before this week. Those were the 2 best teams in the AFC. And
you should have seen all the Dolphins fans looking up at the scoreboard, going like this every time they flash the Colts and Bills score. Like, is that broken?
Yeah. Crazy stuff going on. So thank you all for listening here tonight. We're going to go back to Sunday nights, obviously. We were doing this here on Monday because Paul went to the MetLife Takeover here and got back very late, which we had this planned ahead of time. So thanks for staying with us here. I'm Brian Cat NFL on Twitter. Paul is fanatic_pick. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, finfanatic.com, as well as the FanSide Network. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the FinSide.